I have mentioned Singapore's influence on China many times in previous videos. So what did China learn from Singapore? It all started with Deng Xiaoping's visit to Singapore in 1978. In 1965, when Singapore was forced to become independent, Kuan Yew shed tears in front of the camera, unable to hide his sadness. He knew that it was difficult to lead such a small country with a population of only 2 million and a territory of only one city. However, by 1978, Singapore had become a prosperous free port. When Deng Xiaoping went to France to study in 1920, he stayed in Singapore for a short time. At that time, Singapore was a backward city like most places in China. However, when Deng Xiaoping set foot in Singapore again, this prosperous and clean city shocked him. He and his revolutionary comrades established a Red New China, but they were busy with political struggles in the first 30 years. From 1966 to 1976, China experienced a brutal cultural revolution, and the national economy completely collapsed. After the end of the Cultural Revolution, Deng Xiaoping took 2 years to become the second generation of China's leadership corps, actively go out of China and visit developed countries such as the United States and Japan. What he saw and heard in the United States and Japan, the developed productivity and high quality of life of the people in these countries, shocked him greatly. But after all, these are old capitalist countries, and the Chinese can always find excuses from historical issues. For example, our foundation is weak, and we have been plundered by the West for more than 100 years. But facing Singapore, a city-state that has only been independent for more than a decade, their population is mainly overseas Chinese. Can Singapore's foundation be weaker than China's? Hasn't Singapore been plundered by British colonists? Now, faced to the fact that Singapore has created an economic miracle, what excuses can the Chinese government find? Kuan Yew warmly received Deng Xiaoping, and they became good friends in the following years. Kuan Yew visited China many times in his life, and maintained close relations with successive Chinese leaders. He is a strong person who will not flatter. When Deng Xiaoping asked him about the secret of Singapore's success and what shortcomings China has, he told Deng Xiaoping to focus on education, open the country, connect with the world, and integrate into the international division of labor system. At the same time, he criticized the Chinese government in person for supporting the communist guerrillas in Southeast Asia, which was a serious mistake. China should respect the sovereignty of Southeast Asian countries and treat them as partners, not small countries that can be arbitrarily controlled. He took Deng Xiaoping to visit the Jurong Industrial Park and showed him another secret of the Singapore government, action. The political party he led was called the People's Action Party. A small country like Singapore had no time to hesitate in the face of historical opportunities. After identifying the goal, it had to act immediately. He had strict requirements for the efficiency of the government and enforced iron discipline on lazy officials. All of these had a profound impact on Deng Xiaoping. After Deng Xiaoping returned to China, he immediately made strong arrangements and urged Chinese governments at all levels to take immediate action. First, the Chinese government unswervingly took reform and opening up as its basic national policy, opened the country's doors, and integrated into the international division of labor system. Second, Chinese governments at all levels took economic growth as a clear and main assessment indicator. If officials at all levels want to get promoted, they must do a good job in the economy. Third, slogans for improving education are painted on the walls of the most backward rural houses in China, such as, "It takes 10 years to grow trees, and 100 years to cultivate people." Science and technology are the primary productive forces. Science and education make the country prosperous, and so on. China forcibly promoted 9-year compulsory education when people were hungry and regarded education as an important assessment indicator. The central government has also continuously increased its investment in education. Fourth, immediately stop supporting the communist guerrillas in Southeast Asian countries. Yes, it will take effect on the same day. Fifth, speak frankly about the problems facing China and admit its poverty and backwardness. He mentioned many times, poverty is not socialism. No matter whether the cat is black or white, it is a good cat if it catches mice. The Chinese government then made plans to send a large number of students and officials overseas every year to learn from the experience of developed countries. Sixth, Singapore's cleanliness and hygiene deeply shocked Deng Xiaoping, and the Chinese began to pay attention to urban hygiene. Singapore, naturally, became a popular destination for Chinese officials, because the Chinese government actually regards Singapore, not Hong Kong, as a template for China's urban governance. Shanghai, Suzhou, and other big cities learn from Singapore, which can be easily found in past news. But in this video, I will talk about how my hometown, a fifth-tier city, and a former national poverty-stricken county, learned from Singapore. In 1997, a county party secretary came to our county. He clearly mentioned at a meeting that our county town was a dirty and backward place. When he inspected, he had almost no way to avoid stepping on feces on the roadside. Under his governance, this phenomenon would not be allowed to continue. Yes, it took effect from the moment he said this. Then, corrupt officials were arrested on the spot and lazy officials were fired. He wanted to build roads and bridges to improve traffic, but the county's finances had no money at all, so he withheld civil servants' salaries and forced schools and teachers and other units that relied on government salaries to donate. Ordinary people also had to donate. This task was given to the school, and every student had to donate, unless they were from a particularly poor family. Infrastructure must be built immediately, and there was no time to argue. To this end, he built a high wall by the main traffic artery of the county town, on which was engraved a famous saying of Deng Xiaoping, "No arguments, bold actions, bold breakthroughs, development is the hard truth." The sanitary environment in the county must be improved. Otherwise no one will come to invest here, but the government has no money. However, this matter cannot be delayed, and action must be taken immediately. He divided the county town into many sanitation responsibility areas and assigned them to government departments and institutions at all levels. As long as you want to get a government salary, you have the obligation to do a good job of sanitation. If you don't do it well, the unit leader will be demoted or fired. After the roads are built and the sanitation is improved, it is necessary to attract investment. However, as a poor county, officials at all levels do not understand what investment is and have no resources. They are at a loss. But the county party secretary does not care. He has no time to listen to the officials' complaints. Every government agency has its own investment promotion task. Even the school principal has a task. If you want to keep your position, you have to complete the task. As for how to complete it, he doesn't care, he just wants the result. These radical policies of his have been strongly protested from the government to the people. Many people went to Nanjing and Beijing to petition and demanded his removal. To be honest, if any official dares to be so arrogant now, he will definitely be dealt with. But at that time, almost all rapidly developing small cities in China operated in this way. The Chinese top leaders have maintained a tacit attitude towards this. Some people joke that our county party secretary would never dare to go shopping alone, or he would be beaten to death by angry people. However, when he was promoted and left the county, the streets of the county were crowded with people who saw him off. Because ordinary people felt the great changes in their living environment, and the rapid development of the economy. They no longer had to worry about being blackmailed by the underworld or stepping on feces on the road. They could find jobs in factories and watch the performances of foreign basketball teams in brand new gymnasiums. The time spent from the county to the provincial capital of Nanjing was shortened from 1 day to a few hours. After having money, the school had new desks and projectors, and each classroom was equipped with a separate radio. Students saw computers and various experimental instruments. In fact, to this day, the road he led to build is still the main road of the county. Today's China has rapidly completed industrialization and modernization, and is a veritable world factory. But China is still far from truly developed countries such as Singapore, Japan, and the United States. However, China has developed cities such as Shanghai, Beijing, Hong Kong, Shenzhen, and Guangzhou. Perhaps Singapore can step down from the role of a teacher and become a partner. Help China and ASEAN deepen cooperation. Help China create a multipolar world instead of an international order dominated by the West. Finally, a response to a viewpoint of some netizens. When you don't have enough food to eat, how can you have the energy to maintain sanitation? The fact is just the opposite. If you don't improve infrastructure and sanitation, you will never have enough food to eat.